And if you like the video or any other content on the channel, feel free to subscribe. This video will be going over a list for the Talons of the Emperor Detachment. There are 2 Custodes grav tanks in this list. I will be releasing some all infantry lists for each detachment without any Forge World in the near future. I wanted to focus on the units to give more information on why I pick these units and how they benefit from the stratagems. The June data slate has changed how I build my Talons of the Emperor list. A lot more Psychona units to take advantage of the Talons of the Emperor Detachment rule and the stratagems. A unit breakdown and some final thoughts on the list. Now we'll go through the actual 2,000 point list I've named the Watchers of the Throne. Our Warlord is a shield captain with the Aegis Projector with a Pyrothite Spear and the Presidium Shield. For our characters, we have a Bladechampion with no enhancements and Aleya with no enhancements. Our battle line is 5 Custodian Guard, 4 Spears, 1 Vexilla with the Shield. For our other data sheets, we do have 2 Custodes grav tanks with the Arachnus Blaze Cannons, 2 units of 5 Custodian Wardens, both of them have the 5 Spears in the Vexilla, a unit of Prosecutors, 2 units of 4 Witchseekers, a unit of 10 Vigilators, and for our allied units we do have Kyria Draxus and our dedicated transport, 2 Psychona Rhinos. We'll quickly go over the army rule and the detachment rule. For the army rule we have the Martial Kata. Each time a unit in your army with this ability is selected to fight, select one of the kata stances. Until that unit has finished making its attacks, the selected stance is active for it and it gains the relevant ability. Dakatari stance, melee weapons equipped by models in this unit have the sustained hits 1 ability. Rendak stance, melee weapons equipped by models in this unit have the lethal hits ability. A great army rule to boost our melee damage potential. If we'll be wounding on a 4+ or less, pick sustained 1. If it's 5 or 6s, pick lethal hits. Then we have the detachment rule called the Revered Companions, and this detachment rule has 2 parts here. Psychona units from your army gain the following ability: Null Aegis. While an Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this model, models in that unit have the 5+ feel no pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability: Deadly Unity. While a Psychona unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychona unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. And for these 2 different parts, for the Null Aegis, a 5+ feel no pain to mortal wounds will help our army survivability, with a stratagem to increase it to a 4+ feel no pain to those mortal wounds. For Deadly Unity, the +1 to hit will not benefit the Witchseekers. It will, however, benefit the Prosecutors with their bolters. The Vigilators love +1 to hit on their Great Blades. We only have 1 enhancement in this list, Aegis Projector. Once per turn, the first time a saving throw is failed for the bearer's unit, change the damage characteristic of that attack to 0. It is the first failed save, so we can't hold on to it and use it on a higher damage attack. Even so, if the opponent uses a damage 1 weapon to try to fish out a failed save, since this is every player turn, that is a potential 10 damage we could mitigate with this enhancement. The chances are it will be even more than that by the end of the game. I'll quickly go over the stratagems. I'm not going to focus on the stratagems and really what they do too much, since I do have some videos more in depth with the stratagems and the enhancements and what they do. This is going to be more focusing on how to use them with this list. First off, we have Emperor's Executioners, 2 CP, start of the fight phase, up to 2 Adeptus Custodes units from your army until the end of the phase. Each time a model in one of your units targets an enemy unit that is below starting strength, add 1 to the wound roll. With the restriction, you can only select 2 units if one and only one of them is a Psychona unit and they are both within 6 inches of each other. Then we have Empiric Severance for 1 CP, your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that was selected as a target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks, and 1 friendly Psychona unit within 6 inches of that Adeptus Custodes unit. Until the end of the phase, your unit has the 4+ feel no pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. Hunt as 1, start of your movement phase, up to 2 Adeptus Custodes units from your army. Until the end of the turn, your units are eligible to shoot and or declare a charge in a turn in which they fell back. The restriction, you can only select 2 of these units if one of them is a Psychona unit and both of them are within 6 inches of each other. Shield of Honor, your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Psychona infantry unit from your army that was selected as a target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks, and one other friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry unit within 6 inches of that Psychona infantry unit. Until the end of the phase, any attack that targets your Psychona unit must instead target your Adeptus Custodes unit, unless it is not an eligible target. Then we have Taloned Pincer for 1 CP just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move. Up to 2 Adeptus Custodes units from your army that are within 9 inches of that enemy unit, your units can make a normal move up to 6 inches. With the restrictions, you cannot select units that are within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. You can only select 2 units if one and only one of them is a Psychona unit and both are within 6 inches of each other. And I will say, for a reminder, it does say a normal move up to 6 inches. So if you have a large Terminators, you can only move their 5-inch movement, not 6. And our last stratagem for the Talons of the Emperor is Talons Interlocked. Your shooting phase, up to 2 Adeptus Custodes infantry units from your army and 1 enemy unit that is an eligible target for all of those units. Until the end of the phase, your units can only target that enemy unit, but each time a model and one of your units make a ranged attack, improve the strength and armor penetration characteristics of that attack by 1. The normal restrictions of you can only select 2 units if one of them is a Psychona unit within 6 inches of each other. So here's where these list videos are going to be a little bit different. Instead of focusing on the stratagems, we're going to actually focus a little bit more on the units, why take them, and some general game plans. And this is not a you need to do these things. This is just some things you can do, some little tips and tricks, and just some options we can try on the tabletop. So the first unit I want to talk about is Draxus with the Custodian Guard. My auto-include unit for most of my lists. Draxus plus Custodian Guard is one of, if not the best combination for Draxus in all of 10th edition. The Custodian Guard have 2 abilities that makes Draxus shine. Stand Vigil for reroll wounds of 1, or reroll the wound roll if we're on objective they control. Then we have Sentinel Storm. Once per game, this unit can shoot twice in the shooting phase. Draxus has 2 ranged attacks, Dirge Singer, Assault, Anti-Infantry 4, Devastating Wounds. It has 4 shots, hits on 3s, 2s if it targets a Xenos, Strength 4, AP 0, Damage 2, but it's that Anti-Infantry 4 Devastating Wounds we're looking at. Then she has Psychic Tempest. It's an indirect fire weapon if you need to. Sustain hits 2, 6 shots, hits on 3s, once again 2s if you're targeting Xenos, AP 0, Damage 2. Both of them have an 18-inch range. Then you have your Custodian Guard with 8 shots with a range of 24 inches. They hit on 2s, Strength 4, AP 1, Damage 2 with their 4 Guardian Spears. We want to be shooting this unit when they are on objective they control. This brings up the anti-infantry potential by so much, allowing us to reroll any of her Dirge Singer rune rolls to fish for those devastating wounds. Then if we need to, we can shoot twice, once per game, allowing her to shoot both of her ranged attack profiles again. This can rip apart all but the most powerful infantry units. I have used her to tear apart whole units of Space Marine Terminators. Draxus also has 2 more abilities. One depends on the opponent's army, while the other can be very powerful when used correctly. We have Xenos Hunter. It gives us a +1 to hit roll for the whole unit if the target is a Xenos, ranged and melee. Then we have Psychic Veil. In the command phase, on a 2+, her unit cannot be targeted by ranged attacks outside of 18. You roll a 1, your unit takes D3 mortal wounds. With Xenos Hunter, you can push her damage even higher when fighting Xenos factions. That won't help the Custodian Guard unless they're under the effect of some sort of -1 to the hit roll ability or stratagem. Psychic Veil is great when we use her unit as a home objective holder or a backfield mid-board infantry hunter. We do not want to lose this unit early. She has way too much damage potential and utility to have her unit killed turn 1 or turn 2. Have her lurk around the backfield to keep her safe until future turns where we can afford to be a bit more aggressive with her unit. Hunt as 1 will be a great stratagem to use if this unit does get tied up in combat, allowing this unit's potent shooting profile to be available anytime we need it with the fallback shoot and charge. Talons Interlocked is a great way to boost the damage profile of this unit. We want to take into effect that if this +1 to strength and the AP will make a difference in the wound roll more than anything else though. With cover so easy to get in 10th, the extra AP 1 will not really help Draxus. The Custodian Guard shots will now be at AP 2 though. It's really how much the stratagem will help her Psychic Tempest attack versus the target whether I use this or not. If we can help it, they will not be the target of any stratagems, keeping the more powerful ones for our frontline units. Now let's talk about our Warlord, the Shield Captain with the Aegis Projector with the 5 Wardens. This is our center objective holder. The Shield Captain gives us a bit more potential survivability, with the Strategic Mastery able to reduce the CP cost of stratagems by 1. A lot of the stratagems in this detachment are only 1 CP. Aegis Projector will add even more mitigation for this unit, zeroing out the damage from the first failed save each turn. Having access to Talon Pincer to react to move every opponent's movement phase, even with 0 CP, will make this unit even harder to charge or to get shot lines. Custodian Wardens have a once per game 4-up Feel No Pain, as well as an attack is higher strength than the Warden's toughness, -1 to the wound roll. This unit can have access to a 1 CP Emperor's Executioners instead of the regular 2 CP cost with using Strategic Mastery. The toughness of this unit will make a prime target for Shield of Honor to tank shots to protect our Psychona units. Being able to use Hunt as 1 for 0 CP with Strategic Mastery is great to have as well, making charging this unit very risky. Talons Interlocked is wasted on this unit with the subpar range attacks of the Wardens. This stratagem will be used on the Draxus Custodian Guard unit instead. We do have 2 Witseekers, 2 Psychona Rhinos, and 1 Prosecutor unit in this list. Using one of those units to grab the middle objective, then try to have this unit waiting close to the center objective for a counter charge. Depending on how many range attacks the enemy army has, it might be a better choice to put this unit on the center objective right away, leaving our Psychona units to gain secondary points. We want to avoid losing models before we are ready to push into the enemy. Talon Pincer is the most important stratagem to keeping this unit alive, since we do not have many damage mitigation abilities in this detachment, which is why I usually go with Aegis Projector or Radiant Mantle as my enhancement choices. Our next unit is going to be a Bladechampion leading 5 more Wardens. This unit is going to be one of our objective holders in no man's land, preferably not the center. I would rather the Shield Captain's unit go to the center objective. We can use Emperor's Executioners to add +1 to wound to the melee for this unit. For the most part, I use the AP3 Damage 3 Devastating Wounds profile for the Bladechampion. We can use the Precision profile when needed, but I usually go for the higher damage potential. Another good target for Talon Pincer, since this unit will be holding an objective, the enemy will be putting pressure on this unit. If the enemy moves within 9 inches of this unit, we can use the reactive move to make the charge harder or get out of line of sight. We can even move further onto the objective if we only have a few models on it to ensure we have control of that objective. With Hunt as 1, we can fall this unit back, then charge back in to get fights first. We can even pair it with Emperor's Executioners for an expensive 3 CP, worthwhile if we can ensure we can take back an objective or eliminate a major threat to our game plan. The Bladechampion gives the attached unit a once per game advance and charge, giving this unit a potential 24-inch threat range, but it's more like 15 or 19 inches with average roll. But it's pretty rare we're going to roll, 12 and 12. The Wardens are able to use a once per game 4-up Feel No Pain, and this can be a difficult decision to make when to use this ability. If we are facing a huge amount of potential damage, we should obviously use it that phase. I myself usually try to do a rough estimate of how many units have line of sight in the range phase, then how many units can charge this unit as well. If I stand to lose a few models in the shooting but my whole unit from the charge, I take my chances with the range attacks and I use that 4-up Feel No Pain in the combat phase instead. We will have 2 units of Wardens in this list. We never want to use this ability with both units in the same phase or the same turn if we can help it. This was just some quick pointers, but I will go through how and when to use this in more detail in the upcoming Wardens deep dive. Paired with all the benefits of Talons of the Emperor, this will be a hard to kill yet dangerous unit with the Bladechampion attached. Then we have Aleya with her 10 Vigilators. For a cheap unit compared to the Custodian units, this unit hits very hard. 20 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 5, AP 2, damage 2. Aleya gives fights first to the 10-man unit of Vigilators as well. The detachment ability Deadly Unity can have this unit hitting on 2s if they are within 6 inches of a non-Psychona Custodes unit, making them even more deadly. We can use Shield of Honor to help protect them from ranged attacks if we have them within 6 inches of an Adeptus Custodes unit, excluding Psychona units. We want to use this unit to attack other low toughness infantry units. The fight first makes him a tough unit to engage into melee combat. We can use Talon Pincer to move this unit in front of an enemy charge target. For an example, maybe an 8-bound unit move to be able to charge a unit of Wardens. We could use Talon Pincer to move this unit in front of that unit of Wardens, making a much less enjoyable charge target. With the detachment rule now viable, we want our Psychona units close to our Custodes units to activate the detachment rule and benefit from how most of the stratagems will allow 2 targets as long as one of them is a Psychona unit within 6 inches of the Adeptus Custodes target. Next up is our unit of humble prosecutors. Not too much to say about this unit except it will be our home objective holder. Along with the Custodes grab tanks, our home objective should be safe at least for the first few turns. If there's too much indirect fire or threat to the prosecutors, we can use the Draxus Custodian Guard unit to hold on to the home objective, freeing this unit up to do secondary actions or screen from deep strikes. The only stratagem worth considering on this unit is Taloned Pincer if we need to extend charges or move out of a line of sight. With two Custodes grab tanks close by, we may be able to use this on a tank and the prosecutors if they're within 6 inches of each other. Now on to my favorite Psychona unit, my 2 units of Witchseekers. These 2 units will be used for secondary points, screening, and possible charge blocks. They have a 6-inch scout which can be given to the rhinos in the list when we start the Witchseekers in the Psychona rhinos. Between the rhinos and the Witchseekers we should be able to have a Psychona unit within 6 inches of an Adeptus Custodes unit for most of the game, giving us that 5+ feel no pain against psychic and mortal wounds. Having a Psychona unit within 6 inches also gives us access to the stratagem Empiric Severance for 1 CP to give the Adeptus Custodes a 4+ feel no pain to psychic and mortal wounds instead of the 5+ from the detachment rule. A lot of the stratagems in this detachment allow us to select 2 units as long as one of the units is a Psychona unit. Emperor's Executioners, Taloned Pincer, Talons Interlocked, and Hunt as 1 are all stratagems that can be used on an Adeptus Custodes and a Psychona unit. Shield of Honor will be very useful when trying to keep our Psychona units alive, especially with the 2 Warden units to soak the attacks for the Psychona unit. And next up and new to my list is 2 Psychona Rhinos. We want to put a unit of Witchseekers in each of these Psychona Rhinos. We could put Aleya and the Vigilators, it depends on the opponent, but if you do put the Witchseekers in the Rhinos, it does give the Rhinos a 6-inch scout ability. This will give us the option to deploy aggressively to either push forward if we get first turn or move out of line of sight if we go second. Gives us 2 tougher units to help spread the Revered Companion's detachment rule. The Witchseekers can either disembark on our first turn, giving us even more units to spread the detachment rule. We could also keep them in the transports to keep them safe or get them up the board faster. Taloned Pincer can be used alongside a Custodes unit since the Witchseekers are a Psychona unit, giving us more options with this stratagem. With these 2 Rhinos and the 4 Sisters units, this list should have access to the Revered Companions for most of the game, or at least when we really need it. Next up, we have our Custodes grab tanks. I wish we had more long-range shooting options other than the grab tanks or the Land Raider. For now though, the Custodes grab tank is by far the best option we have access to, as well as one of the most expensive units we can buy. As well as one of the most expensive units we can buy with our real life money, which feels bad since this is such a key unit to making our armies potent and ranged. Without these, we really don't have a lot of range options except, like I said, the Land Raider, and the Land Raider just isn't as good at shooting long range as this thing is. The tanks have incredible reliable firepower. 2 can be sure to take out at least 1 hard target per shooting phase. The Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannon has a 48-inch range, 4 shots, hitting on 2s, strength 12, AP 3 with damage of D6 plus 2, twinned linked, with lethal hits versus monsters or vehicles. With 2 of these on the table, we should be able to at least threaten the opponent's tougher units and discourage a fully on the line, out in the open enemy deployment. There are 3 stratagems that I want to keep in mind for this unit. Hunt as 1, we can use this to fall back from engagement and still shoot. We could then charge into a unit using the tank shock stratagem. With it now being the unit's toughness, we could get 11 dice to roll on a tank shock, which is a lot better than the old 6 from the strength that we used to be able to get. The second stratagem is Taloned Pincer. We can use this stratagem to make charge rolls even harder or to get out of line of sight. We can use this to move onto the home objective if it gets threatened. With an OC of 4, it could help the prosecutors hold that home objective. Other than that, the stratagem is better used on the wardens and keeping them alive. We also have Empiric Severance, and this stratagem can be used to mitigate the mortal wounds that are perfect for killing vehicle units, bypassing the usual toughness and high save. We can and should eventually start moving at least one of these up the board to help hold objectives or to free up some of our other infantry units. We want to target the enemy units who can kill our infantry units quite easily. Damage 3 is brutal against our wardens. Take out the units who could do serious damage to our infantry and scoring potential. Then focus on some of the tougher targets that would be tough to get rid of quickly in melee combat. Now for some final thoughts. This list should be hard to pin down with good secondary scoring options. The melee output of this list is lacking compared to some of my other lists. The grav tanks will provide some really good range firepower though. The list will have a higher skill ceiling. We do not have many options once the enemy can get some attacks onto our units. Proper use of Talon Pincer will really make this list hard to deal with. Aleya with her Vigilators is an interesting unit. We could put the unit in a Psychono Rhino instead of my Witch Seekers. I want to have them on the table close to my Adeptus Custodes unit to take advantage of the strong stratagems and the fights first this unit has. I still wonder how reliable a +5 Feel No Pain is. I still wonder how reliable a +5 Feel No Pain will be when trying to avoid mortal wounds. I hope you liked the video, got some information from the video, and like I always say, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.